So what do you do when you find 2 elephant tusks in your front yard? You call your wife.
I'm waiting for sea otters. They were here earlier. I almost got the shot. Who knew that sea otters actually sound like little chirping birds? At least out here they do. I don't know if that's like a hunting call or a mating call, but there still is a possibility that I'll hear the sound and get the shot. So when I pan quickly, know that the action series of Olympic Strange Days has kicked in. I'm on a dock. I'm checking out the names of these boats. We have a research vehicle called the Surveyor 2. Here's the Capricorn. Each name is more clever than the next. In fact, it's hard not to steal some of these names for future episodes. Maybe I'll wander into a boat here called Mega, or the Meg. Where's Allie, by the way? Oh, good question. Okay, well, so Allie, she's down in Oregon, taking care of business. I thought, well, I have a couple of episodes that have been sitting in the archives. Well, why haven't you released them? Well, the main reason was it's because of copyright violations. You see, YouTube can be pretty persnickety about sounds. In this particular case, about music. I had to do something about that. In this case, I did. Before we get into the episode, I promised everybody that we'd talk a little bit about the previous episode, Red Gate, and the audio left behind the Red Gate. What we recorded. Did we get anything on audio? Well, it's still under review, and here's why, is that I love this little silver recorder I got off of Amazon, but doggone it, sometimes it's hard to get information off of it, as to where I usually go with the Tascam DR05, which I talk up a lot. It doesn't have an internal battery, and those internal batteries seem to last longer than just putting in a couple even really high-grade AA's. So although it did run forever, it ran so long that now I can't get it off of the darn thing and put it on the computer to review it. So while that still happens, forgive me, we'll talk about it in a future episode. By the way, the best name goes to Sunday Taco. So where was I? Oh yes, this episode here, Mega. Well, let's go back in time. That's probably the winter of 2000 and 2025. I don't know if it was February or January, but it was cold that day. I remember that much. And we're on our way to meet Claire Manus, the widow of Manny Manus. 1977 is the date. Right outside of Happy Valley in Sequim, Washington, Manny Manus was out farming in the backyard, digging a pond with his backhoe. He hit something which at first he thought might have been a petrified log, and then suddenly found out that it was actually elephant tusk. At least that's what he thought. Well, it was more than elephant tusk. It turned out to be a historic Mastodon find. And although Manny is not here to tell his story, his wife, Claire, is. So we meet in the museum in Sequim, where the Mastodon bones still are on exhibit. So where there are Mastodon bones, maybe, just maybe, going back to the Red Gate episode, maybe there's proof of dragons as well. I know that sounds crazy, but maybe it's not so crazy. So stay tuned for information on that. But enjoy this archived episode of Olympic Strange Days and the world of the megafauna. Okay, Claire, thanks for sitting down with me here. We decided just to hang out by the fireplace because we've just had crazy weather lately. Now things are kind of melting and thawing in a way that your old dig site, which I just left, of course I didn't leave the house, but I left the monument there.
Right.
And what a beautiful view to discover something like this. And so many people don't know about a historic Mastodon find, right?
It's a prehistoric find.
Yeah, so tell us more.
It all started on my honeymoon, my second husband. Mm-hmm. I was widowed with 2 young boys. We got married in 1971. We were living down in the Bay Area of California. on our honeymoon, we decided to take a trip up to the Olympic Peninsula. Somebody had mentioned it. There's a place named Squim is a good place to retire to. Compared to where we lived in the Bay Area, it was like, oh, wow. You know, the summer of '75, we moved everything up by ourselves, U-Haul and so forth, dogs, cats, and started building our house. Summer of 1977, in August, got really quite hot, and Manny decided to take, in the meantime, he had bought a tractor and also a used tractor and a used backhoe. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs a backhoe there. During the winter and the year that we had already spent there, down in the lower part of our pasture, in the winter, in the rainy season, it would be wet. We'd have a pond, and it even froze in the wintertime. And by summertime, it had dried up. This hot summer of 1977, Manny decided to dig down there and make a pond, a permanent pond, deep enough, because the water table was only a few feet below the surface normally. And so we took the backhoe down there to start his pond, for the cows and the birds and so forth. And this pond was down close to the road, and our house was built in the back part of that lot, way up. Anyway, he started to dig his pond, so he used the backhoe, and he had dug a trench the width of the backhoe, about 6 feet deep, dumping the soil, which happened to be peat, old peat called muck. Went up in the backhoe bucket, the peat, he knew, cast it aside on the edge of this trench. Came this object, looked like a big old log over the backhoe bucket, and set it aside on the grass or on the hay. Took another bucketful, and this time, again, was another like old log, but it wasn't an old log. It had a curve to it, and it was white at either end. So he says, that's not wood. That's not, rotten wood or old wood. And jumped off the backhoe, got down, wiped the muck off what he wanted to find out was, and realized they were elephant tusks. You hear him whistling down there. He's sitting on top of the backhoe, and he's waving his hands, come on down. It's too hot to go down there. He can wait till then. He kept insisting. So I reluctantly walked down into the field, and what do you want? He says, he says, I just dug up a couple of elephant tusks. So what do you do when you find 2 elephant tusks in your front yard? You call your wife. So that's went down there. So I said, okay, you've been in the sun too long. You probably, dug up a couple of cow horns. He says, okay, look down, look here. I wiped all the mud off them. And sure enough, there were 2 elephant tusks. We had seen in the paper people finding parts of tusks down on the bluffs, down Dungeness, on the spit and so forth. And even big, funny-looking teeth, mammoth teeth and mammoth tusks. And there was no other bones with them. There was just, as the bluffs eroded, these things would fall to the beach. So I called the local paper, and I said, okay, you guys have taken pictures of the farmer finding a tusk or something like that, and that would be the end of the story. Unless you're not, well, my husband dug up 2 tusks. Is this still a story? Is it still important? I think it's important. And I want to find out more about it. So if they agreed that, yeah, it's important, we'll come out and take a picture. And then with the picture, I want you to I'm asking the question, anybody has more information about this, who do I contact? Well, in the meantime, I thought about it. The archaeologists from Washington State University in Pullman were working at a site called the Ozette site out at Neah Bay. And how do I get a hold of them? So they came and started carefully removing the upper, actually I had Mandy with the backhoe, moving the peat away, because the tusks themselves were below the peat. And as they moved, and of course water came in, so he needed to dig another pond for the water to be pumped over so they could get the water out of this excavation. And as they carefully washed down the soil or the sediments, or if there might be stones there, but gathering what they could see and measuring everything, photographing it, everything. Well, this one object came up as they were washing away, and it looked almost like the top of a oyster shell. So, they're very careful and very studious about everything. I wonder, where did this come from? Well, when they uncovered the whole thing, it was a tooth. And it was an old tooth, somewhat like a molar, worn down, but it wasn't a mammoth tooth. Now, mammoth and mastodon were both prehistoric animals. They became extinct about 10,000 years ago. So already they know the site's over 10,000 years. But this animal was here over 10,000 years ago. Now, they assumed it was a mammoth because other finds down by the water and so forth of tusks and teeth. But like I say, it was not a mammoth tooth. Mammoth were, like I said, big hairy elephants, just like mastodon. They were a little bigger than the mastodon. They coexisted. They both became extinct about the same time. But the mammoth were grass eaters, like cows and so forth. They ate off the ground grasses and so forth, and they wore their teeth down rapidly, and they'd get another set of teeth. So their teeth were made with, very unlike our teeth. The enamel plates were vertical.
Got you. Okay.
So these so this is the top surface. When chewing on grasses and grit and gravel, they'd wear down. He'd get another set of teeth just like that.
And this is part of your personal collection here. This is the mastodon tooth that's worn down. And how big with your hand, Claire, is that?
Oh, it was probably the
size of your hand?
Yeah.
Okay, so not much bigger.
No.
And would this be in the back of the jaw or the front?
So there's two teeth in each side of his mouth, and
okay,
the top and bottom. And this one was loose. This wasn't. Later on, they found the mandible that's up there with a tooth, the teeth in place. But all of them were worn down.
And is this Manny?
This is Manny. This is the first picture I took.
Is this the first picture you took of the tusk?
He took his backhoe to pick those up and brought them up out of the wet, the muck. And the archaeologists, when they came, they said, keep them in water. No, actually a local teacher had said, keep them in water because they're going to dry up. And kids bring in little old pieces of stuff of, like, probably mammoth tusk, and it would dry up. So he made a little pond out of plastic and put these tusks in them right after I took this picture.
And this is what's behind us. And the fish tanks are these?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and the condition is, they're in really good condition.
Oh,
you can see the ribbing like you would on like an antler shed.
Well, yeah, this is what happens when something lays wet for 13,900 years. There's Manny with the tusk.
So this
and
is
there's a
the.
little pond he made because one of the local teachers said, I called the science teacher, we needed to get a microscope so they could look at stuff. And this is when he was removing, that's peat. That's our house way up here.
Okay.
And so there's all this field.
So this till here is called peat.
This is peat up here.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was removing the peat and putting it over there. And you can see the water table.
What is inside these tanks?
This is the first tusk. So it's about 6 feet long. It was broken off, so it was much longer than that. But you see where the white,
Is that the ivory?
yeah, that's ivory. The tusk is ivory. It's
Okay.
ivory. The whole tusk is ivory. The outer covering mostly is ivory. And that, from being out of its natural place under the ground, it has discolored. But you see how it cracks. So anytime it would dry or be disturbed, it just defoliates. The outer ivory cracks off. Okay, over here is the tooth.
Oh, there it is, the one you
And
showed.
you can see it. And you see that's Gus's hand.
Yeah, and it's so smooth. It almost looks like obsidian.
Oh, it looks like a redwood. It looks like a redwood table.
Yeah, right.
Polished redwood.
Yeah.
With a
Is it smooth to touch, like glass?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is Doherty, and that's one of his grad students.
So this
These
is
are
the
students.
archaeologist that you brought in.
That's Dr. Doherty, who was the head of the whole archaeological research center.
And so look at this. They're just using a Maxwell House coffee
Yeah,
can here to
whatever.
collect.
But see, he's washing the sediments away from
Yeah.
with water. That's a mandible. That's the left mandible, lower left mandible. There's a kneecap. That's the fibula. That's the bone with the projectile point. See?
Okay.
And there's the X-ray or
Of what
there's
the
point.
projectile looked like inside the rib.
It's one of the ribs. That's a vertebra.
Yeah, maybe point out
So
what
there
I'm.
you can see well, I guess that other tooth isn't in that one. They found the other tooth, so the smaller tooth would fit right in front of there. The ice at before this time went up about 3,000 feet over Schwinn. It was about 3,050. So by 15,000 years ago, or 14,000 years, it mostly was gone, but there was still probably ice around the Dungeness and so forth.
So my question to you, Claire, is it a possibility to go out to the dig site? Could we drive up there and you could point out things to me?
Oh, yeah, it's just, you can't get on the property.
Okay.
But you can see where it is.
Okay, so we're gonna take a tour out there.
This is at street, right at the street. You can see this if you come down the street. This is a monument that Manny built to show, actually, embedded in it is the plaque that the federal government gave us for being on the national, right,
Oh, National Registry?
on the National Register of Historic Places. And if you go down and read it closer, which needs a nice shine up, there's a
You want
one.
me to help you down there?
Yeah,
Take my arm.
there's a one.
That's an old path.
Yes, Manny built it. And down in the corner, there should be a one.
Oh, right there.
This is the first time they've presented the U.S. Department of Interior that the first time they've presented a plaque like this to an archaeological site.
Wow.
You'll find them in old buildings that are on the National Register,
Okay.
but never an archaeological site. So that's why we have a number one, and it's named after Manny's last name because it was the Manus property, so it's called the Manus Mastodon.
Entered into the National Registration of Historical Places on March 21st, 1978 by the Department of Interior, the DOI.
And they didn't realize it, but that's his birthday, March 21st.
Oh, really?
It was his birthday.
That's great.
He died in 2000.
But Manny built this whole
Manny
monument.
built this out and
Oh,
mounted
wow.
that in the plaque. And if you look straight ahead, you see our home up there.
So this was your home up there, okay.
And we've added that front room since he died.
So where's the dig site in relationship
The dig
to
site
here?
is right in, let's see, we're around the corner of the property. Now this 2-acre corner, if you could imagine 2 acres right in this corner, right up to the road.
Okay.
It now belongs to the Archaeological Conservancy, so it will always be protected.
Okay.
And in that 2 acres is the site. So
right around here, this whole wetlands area.
but this is just like it looked like before we.
And are you
Before Manny
saying,
went down to dig a.
was there a settlement right around?
Oh, just a campsite.
Okay.
Just a. Yeah.
Okay.
They were cooking.
Okay.
Yeah, they
So
were
all the
just
50,000 people coming up and down this road for years, paying
10
$1,
years.
coming up here.
Yeah.
And where would they all park? Would there
They
just be
park
lines?
inside, where the snow, where you
Yeah.
see the snow there with flat part. Yeah, they're right there. We had a fencing that went up all the way there.
Okay. I thought this was your house. On my intro,
God,
I was like,
no.
this must be it. That wasn't it.
It wasn't there.
Okay.
And it's not a house, it's a
Double wide.
prefab or something.
Yeah, right.
This house wasn't here. This is one 8-acre section. Where this house is built is another 8-acre section. We had 16 acres, so there was nothing here. No trees. You see it's a lot of trees now, but there was no trees back 15,000, 14,000 years ago. There was no woods yet.
Would this have just been
Just
open?
just low brush, and water plants and low brush. That's it. No trees yet.
Well, that's it for us, folks. We'll see you in the trees.